Hearing these words, all the gods present were stunned in place. Thor turned his head to look at the towering figure behind him, his pupils suddenly constricting. Amidst the shattered divine thrones, Odin, draped in a white divine robe, stood quietly, his brow furrowed. In the pitch-black eye socket that had long been covered by an eye patch, countless crimson, bizarre worms were coiling together, silently writhing on each other, resembling a red eyeball from a distance. Thor's heart trembled violently. He instinctively took 2 steps back, disbelief filling his eyes. Not only him but also the blind god Hod, who had been knocked to the ground by the celestial lord, and the war god Tyr, who had just climbed back up to the temple after being thrown down the mountain, were also frozen in place. They stared blankly at the familiar figure, feeling an unprecedented strangeness. "Father," Thor said in a daze, "what happened to your eyes? And what the celestial lord just said?" "Just lies." Odin spoke light or faint, closing his eyelids to cover the writhing crimson right eye. He stepped forward into the air and an infinite divine power burst forth in an instant. The celestial lord's lips parted slightly, and obscure scriptures flowed from his mouth, causing the surrounding spiritual energy to churn violently. The divine powers of the 2 supreme gods collided in the temple without any embellishments, and the resulting shockwaves directly cracked the walls of the temple, creating numerous hideous fissures. In just a moment, the entire temple exploded with a thunderous roar. Several Nordic gods quickly retreated to the nearby airspace of the divine mountain. The 2 mysterious figures from the celestial temple, who had been silently standing in the corner, exchanged glances and also hurriedly withdrew to avoid being caught in the chaos, watching from a distance. As the dust at the mountain peak gradually settled, the originally grand and majestic hall was now in ruins. On the shattered steps, Odin's figure had slightly retreated half a step, while the celestial lord at the temple door had taken 2 barefooted steps back. The hairpin that had been tied in his hair had fallen off at some point, and his disheveled black hair spilled over his black and white robe, adding a touch of unruliness. The celestial lord's eyes were incredibly calm as he gazed at the towering figure in the white divine robe, letting out a long sigh. Truly worthy of being the one who single-handedly supports a divine kingdom. The rumored strongest god of the West is indeed not to be underestimated. He paused and continued. It seems that to tear apart this layer of false exterior, I still need to exert some effort. Upon hearing this, Odin's brow furrowed slightly. The celestial lord, draped in a black and white robe, with disheveled hair and bare feet, still had eyes that were free of dust. He slowly raised his right hand, forming it into a sword shape, and pointed towards the east. "Queen Mother of the West, today I borrow a sword from you in Kunlun." He spoke light or faint. Kunlun void. Under the morning glow, a voice pierced through endless space, resonating loudly among the mountains. "Queen Mother of the West, today I borrow a sword from you in Kunlun." The Queen Mother of the West, who was talking with Lin Chia, looked up at the sky, her beautiful eyes narrowing slightly. "Finally here. Your Majesty, what is that sound?" Lin Chia looked around, confusion evident in his eyes. The Queen Mother of the West did not answer. She simply turned around and gazed at the distant, continuous sword mountain range, speaking loudly. "The celestial lord of the great Xia borrows a sword today from the Kunlun sword ruins to slay enemies. Those willing to fight alongside the celestial lord, please rise." Buzz. The moment the Queen Mother finished speaking, countless sword sounds erupted from the continuous mountain range, followed by streaks of sword light shooting into the sky, rapidly flying towards the west. From the continuous sword sounds, Lin Chia could clearly sense the fighting spirit and indomitable will contained within these ancient swords. At this moment, they were no longer mere swords but fearless soldiers following their commander into battle against the enemy. At a single command, all swords rang out in unison. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions. In the blink of an eye, a dense mass of sword light shot up into the sky, like an endless tsunami of sword light, surging towards the Western Divine Kingdom, magnificent and imposing. Standing beneath the tsunami of sword light, Lin Chia felt incredibly small. He stood in a daze for a long time before gasping in shock. It should be noted that every sword here was forged by the Queen Mother of the West. A century of accumulation and crafting had resulted in this entire Kunlun sword vein. With such a terrifying number of Kunlun swords being mobilized, who exactly was the celestial lord planning to kill? On a silent divine mountain. What is the celestial lord of the great Xia doing? Thor asked in confusion. I don't know, the blind god Hod paused, but did you hear any sound? Sound? Where? From the east, approaching here. It seems to be swords. In the ruins of the shattered temple, Odin frowned slightly. Just as he was about to do something, he suddenly turned to look towards the east. Endless sword light, mixed with a chilling sharp sound, surged up from the cliff of the Rainbow Bridge, like a cataclysmic tsunami of sword light, sweeping towards every inch of Asgard's land. Upon seeing this terrifying tsunami of sword light, the gods residing in Asgard immediately changed their expressions. Before they could flee in panic, the sword light tsunami swept directly over their heads, rushing towards the divine mountain. The target of these swords was not them at all. On the divine mountain, Odin watched as the endless sword light flew straight towards him, his expression growing increasingly grave. 30 million swords should be enough. The celestial lord stood calmly beneath the towering tsunami of sword light, his sword finger pointing towards Odin in the air. Go. The tsunami formed by 30 million Kunlun sword lights instantly engulfed Odin's figure. The roar of the earth erupted, and the entire Asgard trembled violently. The sword energy mixed with dust, submerged the temples and roads surrounding the divine mountain for dozens of kilometers, as countless Nordic gods frantically fled from the sword light. In the sky, the two mysterious figures from the celestial temple looked down at the sword light tsunami. Beneath their black hoods, the two spoke in unison in the same tone and rhythm as if mechanically synchronized. Should we go help him? They paused for a moment, then answered simultaneously as if to themselves. Wait a bit longer. But our purpose for coming here was to help Asgard resist the celestial lord of the great Xia. If Odin dies, Asgard without Odin will be a defenseless waste. This is not in our favor. Odin is not so easily killed, and if what the celestial lord of the great Xia said is true, then the celestial temple's attitude towards Asgard may need to change. You're right, then let's wait a bit longer. As the two conversed, the sword light tsunami was nearing its end. When the dust settled, the once towering divine mountain in the heart of Asgard had been forcibly sliced apart, even cleaving through the ground, becoming a massive pit nearly 100 meters deep. The celestial lord, draped in a black and white robe, stepped into the air above the giant pit, looking down with a faint smile on his lips. In the center of the giant pit, a bloodied and mangled tall figure was slowly rising. It was Odin. Bizarre bloodworms crawled through his shattered muscles and internal organs, and in the blood holes of his broken shoulders, disgusting tentacles intertwined, each about several meters long, twisting and crawling on the ground as they picked up a fallen half-arm and reintegrated it into the fragmented body. This disgusting scene was exposed to the eyes of most of the Nordic deities. Even the two mysterious figures from the temple of the gods in the sky couldn't help but frown and mutter to themselves. How disgusting! What on earth is that? Odin really has a problem. Could it be that the great summer's divine lord was telling the truth? Is Odin really the culprit who released the mist 100 years ago? The main gods of Asgard, who had originally intended to intervene and save Odin when they saw him in danger, suddenly turned pale at the sight before them. Especially Frigg, standing beside Thor. As Odin's wife, she knew all too well that the bizarre, twisted creature before her was definitely not the Odin she had known a century ago. It was nothing but a monster. In the deep pit, the bloodworms and tentacles on Odin's body gradually retracted, and all his wounds returned to their original state. He looked up at the moral divine lord in the sky, his expression extremely grim. Is this your goal? You deceived Asgard and the other divine realms for a century, and now, of course, you must let them see your true face, the moral divine lord said coldly. If it weren't for the fact that the three divine lords of Great Summer visited the extreme south 100 years ago, you would probably still have them in the dark. Back then you had already guessed that the three of us might know the truth, so when the mist invaded, you hid in the fog and secretly spied on us. Only when you saw all the gods of Great Summer sacrifice themselves did you let your guard down and return to Asgard. It wasn't until a few years ago, when Yangjian awakened from reincarnation and announced the return of the gods of Great Summer, that you became vigilant again, actively uniting with other divine realms to try to eliminate Great Summer before our gods could fully revive. thus erasing any potential threats. Unfortunately, neither your divine realms nor your Asgard are impenetrable. Including when I entered Asgard, you hesitated to act because you feared that engaging with me would expose your situation, so you specifically requested reinforcements from India, hoping they could hold me off. Unfortunately, their schemes seem even deeper. They want to wait until you and I are both injured before stepping in to deal with me, minimizing their own losses. As for now, they probably won't act anymore. The moral divine lord raised his head and smiled slightly at the two mysterious figures in the sky. The two mysterious figures remained silent. Odin in the giant pit slowly closed his eyes and sighed deeply. So, you issued a challenge to Asgard 10 days ago to prevent me from finding an excuse to leave Asgard or avoiding battle? Only by hearing the words of my three divine lords will the other divine realms believe it. Only by publicly revealing your true face can I put an end to this, while simultaneously dismantling your four-nation alliance and turning the guns on you, Odin. The moral divine lord paused before continuing. Of course, I cannot mobilize the gods of Great Summer to directly attack Asgard. Doing so would not only provoke a united resistance from the other three divine realms but would also severely damage the strength of Great Summer. Only by issuing a challenge in advance and confronting you alone can I maximize the use of the other divine realms' selfishness, diverting their attention here while ensuring they do not actively assist you, as they believe I alone cannot destroy all of Asgard. After all, this is merely a test, allowing them to gauge the true strength of the divine lord of Great Summer, which is beneficial and harmless. What a deep scheme, Odin squinted at him. You set this trap 100 years ago when the mist descended? Everything is within your calculations. The moral divine lord smiled without speaking. However, I don't understand why 10 days? Odin asked, somewhat puzzled. What have you been doing during these 10 days? Where are the other gods of Great Summer? The moral divine lord shook his head slightly. For Great Summer, the enemy is not just you, Odin. All those who took action against Great Summer while our gods were in reincarnation are on our list for reckoning. Those who dare to offend Great Summer must pay the price. Odin's eyes narrowed slightly and he remained silent. In his hollow right eye, countless bloodworms writhed silently, and a strange aura quietly emanated. As the supreme god of the Nordic pantheon, yet allied with those filthy beings on the moon, you have become insane in your quest to reach that realm. Odin, the moral divine lord's smile gradually faded. He raised his hand to grip a humming Kunlun sword and spoke. Your current appearance is no different from Tsukuyami in Takamagara. Don't compare me to that waste, Odin frowned at this remark. Tsukuyami merely admires their power, willingly degrading himself to become their dog, whereas I am an equal to them. I help them escape and they assist me in reaching that realm. It is fair. And Asgard? The moral divine lord glanced at Thor and the others in the sky. To reach that realm, you can willingly release the nameless mist or stand by and watch countless people die. Now, are you indifferent even if it drags all of Asgard and your children down with you? Odin's eyes subtly flickered. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. Without stepping into that realm, we are ultimately mere playthings of fate. I Asgard, all of us. Only by completely breaking through that barrier can I write my own destiny. At that time, rebuilding a truly existing Asgard will not be difficult. What I am doing is saving it. A good way to save it. The moral divine lord shook his head, raising his sword and slowly walking toward Odin. He looked up at the two mysterious figures standing in the sky and suddenly spoke. What are you waiting for? If Odin escapes, it will be a disaster for all divine realms. Upon hearing this, the two mysterious figures in the sky focused their gaze, hesitated for a brief moment and then rushed toward Odin. As the howling wind blew, the hoods concealing their faces were blown away, allowing the other Nordic gods to finally see their true forms, their eyes instantly narrowing. Beneath the black robes were two golden Buddhist faces split in half as if sliced down the middle. The left face smiled silently while the right face glared fiercely. These two halves of the Buddhist face, when combined, formed a golden visage that seemed to smile and frown simultaneously. A massive body with giant limbs extended from beneath the face, transforming into a majestic and imposing Buddha statue that flickered in and out of sight among the clouds. One of the supreme gods of India, Vishnu. Seeing this, Odin's eyes filled with rage. The reinforcements he had summoned had now become one of his pursuers, making him feel as if he were being toyed with. He snorted coldly, and the surrounding space automatically tore open a crack, swallowing his form and causing him to disappear from Asgard. Just as the crack was about to close, the moral divine lord thrust his sword forward, firmly wedging it into the space crack, and in a flash he followed closely behind. Asgard. The human circle. Under the dim sky, swirling sandstorms rage across the barren Gobi Desert. In a corner of this small world lies a dilapidated slum, now silent and lifeless. A thick stench of blood flows through the open space in the center of the slum. A few black crows, pecking at indistinct corpses, seem to sense something and flap their wings, quickly taking to the sky. From above, the vast expanse of the slum is filled with a dark mass of bodies. Elderly people, children, stray dogs, and even pregnant women with swollen bellies, their eyes wide open in death, are piled together like garbage. A rough glance reveals nearly 10,000 bodies. Judging by the state of decay, these corpses have been dead for no more than a day. At the center of these thousands of corpses, a mysterious symbol is etched with black, eerie threads, resembling an eye or a snake's mouth. Suddenly, the mysterious symbol brightens rapidly, and the black threads frantically siphon blood and flesh from the surrounding corpses. The thousands of bodies in the open space visibly shrivel, and at the same time, a man's figure rapidly takes shape from the void. Whoosh! As all the corpses dry up into ash, Loki suddenly sits up from the ground, his pale face drenched in sweat, his eyes still reflecting terror. He calms himself for a moment, reaches out to cover his forehead, and helplessly looks up at the dim sky. Is this the power of the celestial sovereign? Fortunately, I left a hand last night when I came to the human circle. Otherwise, I would have truly died. He slowly stands up, casually glancing at the scattered rough cloth garments around him. He reaches into the nearest piece of clothing and pulls out a black insect egg. This was something he had forcibly stuffed into the stomachs of those he killed in the slum. This way, even if something went wrong with his resurrection ritual, the egg would not be easily discovered. He takes out a small knife and cuts open the surface of the egg. Bloodworms crawl out from within, quickly gathering to form a red eyeball. "Brother, how are things on your end?" Loki asks, looking at the eye. Sizzle. A small opening suddenly appears at the top of the red eyeball, revealing a row of sharp fangs that gently open and close. "The celestial sovereign and Vishnu are still hunting me. I can't break free." Odin's voice comes from within. Loki nods slightly. The other divine realms should have noticed the celestial war by now. "Brother, your secret won't be hidden for long. You can't return to Asgard for a while. Find another place to hide." "I know." Odin pauses. "What are your plans next?" "This time I discovered quite a bit by infiltrating the Great Xia with a clone." Loki seems to think of something, a playful glint appearing in his eyes. The Great Xia gods are so high-profile in annihilating the high heaven, and coupled with the public agreement with you for a 10-day truce, it should be to divert everyone's attention to Asgard, covering up the truth of their mass departure. In terms of Great Xia's military strategy, this should be called a feigned retreat. Their target is not actually Asgard but another place. I have basically guessed where it is. Another place? Loki squints slightly and slowly reveals a name. Odin falls silent for a moment. "So what do you plan to do?" "Hee, the more chaotic they get, the better it is for us." Loki sneers, a cunning light shining in his narrow eyes. "I, of course, have to throw some fuel on their plans." Greece. Olympus. The celestial war? Under the thunderclouds, Zeus, with explosive muscles, seems to sense something. He raises his head and looks in a certain direction. After a moment, his brow furrows slightly. Odin's divine power seems a bit strange. Why is Vishnu teaming up with the celestial sovereign of Great Xia? He ponders for a long time, his expression growing increasingly serious. Aglaia. "Father." A woman radiating brilliance stands quietly behind Zeus. "Something seems off. Send the order down to completely seal Olympus for the next few days, prohibiting anyone from going out. You personally go to Asgard and see what exactly is happening." "Understood." The woman steps back, her figure gradually disappearing into the shimmering light. India. Temple of the Gods. In the ancient temple, the towering golden Buddha statue in the center trembles slightly. The four faces of the Buddha, facing different directions, simultaneously open their eyes, and some dust falls from the statue as it slowly turns toward the temple's entrance. Vishnu. Cthulhu. A deep voice emanates from the Buddha's mouth. After a moment, the empty Buddha hall gradually closes its doors. Bang! With a muffled sound, the temple doors seal tightly, completely isolating the ancient temple from the world, silently suspended in the void. Egypt. City of the Sun. On the 9 towering pillars in the center of the city, 5 figures sit cross-legged, slowly restoring Egypt's fortunes. At that moment, on the highest sun pillar, a phantom opens its eyes, looking in a certain direction, and lets out a soft exclamation. The celestial sovereign of Great Xia is fighting Odin. How did Vishnu get mixed in? Did those Buddha statues from the Temple of the Gods betray us and side with Great Xia? That's strange. The wind god Shio suddenly speaks up. The Temple of the Gods in India is one of the most mysterious divine realms, second only to Japan's high heaven. It is rumored that the strength of those Indian gods is unfathomable. Even Great Xia might not be their match in direct combat. They had already joined the alliance. It makes no sense for them to suddenly turn against us and attack. Perhaps there's something even stranger. The god of life suddenly speaks, pointing to the 2 vacant pillars beside him. Nephthys and Nut went to investigate the situation in Great Xia 10 days ago. Why haven't they returned yet? The many pillar gods present fall into silence. 10 days isn't too long. Perhaps they encountered some trouble. After a long while, the wind god Shio slowly replies. The situation in the fog is somewhat strange. The phantom on the sun pillar thinks for a moment and continues. Let's temporarily seal the city of the sun and observe the changes. Once the relationships between Asgard, Great Xia, and the Temple of the Gods become clear, we can take action. Agreed. The other pillar gods have no objections and simultaneously channel their divine power into the pillars beneath them, completely sealing the space around the city of the sun, making themselves entirely independent from the world. After completing all this, the phantom on the sun pillar lets out a slight sigh. At that moment, a voice drifts from behind him, leisurely resonating. Are you only thinking of closing the door now? Isn't it a bit too late? The phantom's figure Sutta Y turns his head to see a figure in the void above the city of the sun, a Taoist holding a golden flower standing there with a smile. The moment they saw that figure, the 5 9-pillar gods present felt a simultaneous shock in their hearts. The Sun City had been completely sealed off. How did this person get in? Why had they not sensed even a hint of his presence? Primordial Heavenly Venerable. The shadow on the sun god pillar furrowed his brow tightly. What? Do you also wish to come to my Sun City to seek the Tao like the virtuous Heavenly Venerable? Primordial Heavenly Venerable stood in the air above Sun City, shaking his head. Not at all. I have come today not to seek the Tao. I have come to seek justice. Seek justice. Hearing these 2 words, the shadow's eyes narrowed. Over 20 years ago, you, Osiris, the Egyptian god of the underworld, along with the other 3 great divine nations' underworld gods, shattered my Great Xia's ghostly realm Fengdu into pieces, each taking a chunk, the largest of which is in your Sun City. 2 years ago, your 4 Egyptian pillar gods joined forces to attack the eastern border while secretly stealing my Great Xia's Fengdu again, cutting a city into the mist, intending to use it as a medium to curse my nation's fortune and undermine the foundation of Great Xia. Do the gods of your Sun City plead guilty? The shadow on the sun god pillar stared at Primordial Heavenly Venerable, a sudden ominous premonition rising in his heart. After a moment of silence, he shook his head. What if we do not plead guilty? Pleading guilty or not is not important, Primordial Heavenly Venerable replied calmly. What matters is that I am already standing here. And what if you are standing here? The shadow snorted coldly, and the god pillar beneath him erupted with blinding sunlight. From the other 4 pillars, divine light soared into the sky, while lines of divine power intertwined beneath the 9 pillars as if brewing something. From all corners of Sun City, one Egyptian deity after another flew into the sky, warily watching Primordial Heavenly Venerable standing in the clouds. This is my Egyptian divine nation, not your Great Xia's heavenly court, the shadow slowly spoke. Even the supreme god cannot directly confront the power of a divine nation. Even if the strongest Western god Odin were here, he could do nothing against my Sun City. What can you do alone? primordial heavenly venerable smiled. Who said there is only me here? Upon hearing this, the shadow's eyes narrowed. He seemed to sense something and looked up at the void above primordial heavenly venerable. There, primordial heavenly venerable, clad in a Taoist robe, stood in the clouds, gently raising his hand and pointing upward. Heavenly Court. These simple 2 words caused the entire Sun City to tremble violently. From the void directly above, a piercing explosion echoed and surging spiritual energy rolled out, revealing a colossal golden shadow that slowly emerged. On that golden shadow, countless magnificent celestial palaces stood tall, with streams of spiritual energy cascading from the heavenly gates, descending from the heavens into the mortal realm. That was the divine nation of Great Xia, the only heavenly nation in the world that could move freely, the heavenly court. The moment they saw that golden celestial palace, the pupils of the 5 pillar gods suddenly constricted. The heavenly court of Great Xia had been hidden directly above Sun City all along? Why had they not sensed it at all? As the heavenly court emerged, one divine figure after another rushed out from the celestial palace, various rainbow lights flowing through the clouds, transforming into countless Great Xia divine figures, standing in the clouds and looking down at the massive Sun City below. 12 golden immortals for heavenly kings, 5 elders of the 5 directions, 6 Ding and 6 Jia, the 7 stars of the northern dipper. Once all the gods were in position, a towering figure clad in a white robe with golden patterns and wearing an imperial crown stepped out from the heavenly court. He stood in mid-air, looking down indifferently at the gods of Sun City, an endless imperial might crashing down. The aura emanating from him was already infinitely close to that of a supreme god. He was the emperor of the Great Xia gods, the Jade Emperor. He parted his lips slightly, and a deep yet authoritative voice echoed through the heavens. Form the formation. The myriad divine figures landed in the clouds, and the divine power around them surged simultaneously. On the gray sky, points of starlight flickered, and the starlight spread like a raging fire, quickly covering the entire sky. The enchanting starlight gradually fell, like a massive inverted bowl, enclosing Sun City and completely isolating it from the outside world. A terrifying aura poured down from the myriad stars, causing the other 4 pillar gods to tremble in fear. The shadow on the central sun god pillar also wore an extremely grave expression. From the strength of that Great Xia formation, it was clear that it was not hastily assembled. The Great Xia gods must have been hiding near Sun City for days, secretly setting up the formation. If that were the case, Nephthys and Nut, who had gone out to investigate the situation in Great Xia and had yet to return, had most likely already perished. From the very beginning, the goal of the Great Xia gods was not Asgard but Sun City? Damn it, he should have noticed this earlier. Among the 4 great divine nations of the current alliance, Sun City was the only one that had suffered heavy losses and was the weakest. 4 of the 9 pillar gods had fallen, and the nation's fortune had been greatly damaged, and they had offended Great Xia the most. After the emergence of the Great Xia gods, to break the passive situation of being besieged by the 4 divine nations, they would naturally first use thunderous means to eliminate the weakest Sun City. 10 days ago, the virtuous heavenly venerables' challenge to Asgard was merely to attract the attention of other divine nations and to let Sun City lower its guard, secretly setting up the formation. Now, with the heavenly temple and Great Xia joining forces against Odin, the situation in the mist had become murky, and the other divine nations would choose to protect themselves. This was the best time to strike at Sun City. Unfortunately, now that he had realized everything, it was already too late. As the star formation completely locked down the area around Sun City, the Egyptian gods lost their escape route. They could not relay the news of Sun City's attack, and even if they did at this time, the other divine nations might not come to their aid. In this massive cage, there could only be one winner between the heavenly court and Sun City. Countless Great Xia gods stood beneath the myriad stars, looking down at Sun City, their divine power and hearts surging. They felt an overwhelming sense of emotion. The last time they fought side by side was long ago, a matter of countless years. After sacrificing themselves to become a monument, they had gone through 100 years of reincarnation, and they had finally stood together again. This was a rebirth after extinction as well as the beginning of a new era. In the sky, the Jade Emperor spoke loudly. 100 years of reincarnation have passed, the heavenly court returns to the world. I invite all celestial friends to once again revive the might of Great Xia. Kill. As his voice fell, the myriad Great Xia divine figures flew down from the heavens. The pent-up frustration and anger of 100 years erupted at that moment into endless battle intent. Pamir Plateau. The Great Xia God is in Egypt? After hearing the words of the Queen Mother of the West, Lin Chia spoke in shock. From the very beginning, the goal of Great Xia was the Sun City? If this matter had been kept secret a few days ago, now the heavenly court has likely already taken action, so it's fine to tell you, the Queen Mother of the West said calmly. Only by revealing Odin's true nature and plunging Asgard into complete internal strife, and then delivering a decisive blow to the Egyptian pantheon, can Great Xia escape its current predicament. In this way, the alliance of the 4 divine nations will be reduced to 3, and without Odin, Asgard, like Olympus in turmoil, will also see its combat power greatly diminished. I see. After listening to all the arrangements of the Great Xia God, Lin Chia couldn't help but sigh. It seems everything is within the calculations of the heavenly court. Our worries are indeed somewhat excessive. But even if we achieve this, it only slightly increases Great Xia's chances of victory, the Queen Mother of the West reminded him. Asgard and Olympus are merely temporarily in trouble. They have not completely lost their fighting strength. What we in Great Xia still face are the 3 divine nations. Moreover, the attack on the Sun City may actually accelerate the process of these 3 divine nations joining forces, and that will be the truly difficult time in this war. Lin Chia nodded, then as if he thought of something he asked. Your Majesty, I have another question. Speak. In the time shadow from 100 years ago, I remember one of the National Guardian monuments transformed by the gods of Great Xia was nearby, but why can't I see it now? Lin Chia looked around, puzzled. The National Guardian monument has always been here. It has merely concealed its form. The Queen Mother of the West raised her hand, and a beam of divine light shot out, gently landing in a certain spot at the edge of the mist. As that divine light passed, a corner of the black National Guardian monument revealed itself amidst the wind and snow. This is an illusion set to prevent mortals from discovering it, but for deities it can be easily sensed. The divine power fluctuations it emits in this snowy expanse are as dazzling as the sun. As the Queen Mother of the West finished speaking, as if sensing something, she glanced in a certain direction. I have other matters to attend to. You may leave on your own. Before Lin Chia could say anything further, the Queen Mother of the West stepped forward, her figure transforming into a streak of azure light, disappearing into the sky. Lin Chia stood alone in place, turning to look again at the misty border, at the black monument gradually concealed in the wind and snow. He sighed deeply and began to walk toward the Border Defense Unit. He was not far from the Kayesh Border Defense Unit, and this time, Lin Chia unusually chose not to use his powers to travel but instead walked back step by step. His mind was in turmoil. Perhaps it was because he had just personally experienced that tragic history. Images of the gods of Great Xia flying like moths to a flame towards the monument kept flashing in his mind. They all seemed to radiate a certain brilliance, a brilliance that did not come from divine power but from their souls. This brilliance was unrelated to humans or gods, or even to humans or objects. Even the 30 million swords that soared into the sky at the command of the moral heavenly sovereign also bore this brilliance. That brilliance came from dedication, from sacrifice, from the determination and resolve in their eyes when they fought for all beings. As his thoughts expanded, many figures emerged in Lin Chia's mind. Zhou Ping, who stood firm and wielded his sword to slay gods even when facing death. Wang Mian, who rewound time, betting all his lifespan to change history. Lu Qiu, who overextended his potential, using his emblem to send a message and save the entire Qianlong Pass. Chen Mai, who was reborn after death, guarding Tsangnan with a miraculous body. And General Zhao, who on that rainy night, wielded his knife to slay the ghost-faced man and saved his entire family. They were all night watchmen, radiating the same dazzling brilliance as the gods of Great Xia. Lin Chia was also a night watchman. But he always felt he was somewhat different from them. What was different? If one day a crisis arose and it was his turn to sacrifice himself to save countless people behind him, would he do it? Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Chia affirmed this answer. He would. His choice was the same as those night watchmen and the gods of Great Xia. Then what exactly was different between them? Lin Chia lowered his head, silently walking through the wind and snow, blankly staring at the footprints he left behind, moving forward like a puppet. He was pondering, he was lost. His thoughts retraced memories step by step. The upheaval in the capital, the journey through the human circle guarding Chenlong Pass, the establishment of the Nightfall, joining the Night Watchman. He recalled every little detail of the past, and suddenly, a flash of lightning crossed his mind. His thoughts returned once more to that rainy night. In his arms was the severely injured Zhao Kongqing, behind him was a low, dilapidated house, and beside him was the gradually reviving body of the ghost-faced man. That day he and Zhao Kongqing's corpse made a 10-year pact. That day he bid farewell to his past. That day he pulled out the straight knife Zhao Kongqing had stuck in the ground, personally killed the ghost-faced man, and stepped onto the path of the Night Watchman. That was the starting point of everything. At this moment, Lin Chia realized what was different about him. He made a 10-year pact, he drew his sword to kill the ghost-faced man, he joined the Night Watchman. He did all this not to save the world. What he truly wanted to protect were only his aunt and Ajin in that low house behind him, and the dreams of the cold man's corpse when he was alive. From the very beginning, his original intention was selfish. Even though he had come this far, even though he had become the captain of a special team, deep down he was still that selfish Lin Chia. He would raise his hand, pointing at the neon-lit city center in the rainy night, asking the dying Zhao Kongqing, "Is it worth it for them?" The deceased Zhao Kongqing did not answer, and the current Lin Chia still could not answer. He could sacrifice his life and everything for the sake of protecting millions. But that was only because it was his duty, it was what he should do as a night watchman. Deep down he was not a selfless person willing to protect all beings. Perhaps that was the reason he was different from them? Lost in thought, Lin Chia stumbled, and a shining emblem fell from his bosom, landing in the thick snow. Lin Chia froze. The deep red cloak fluttered in the wind and snow. After hesitating for a moment, he bent down to pick up the emblem, brushed off the snowflakes on its surface with his thumb, turned it over and glanced at the 4 lines of engraved text on the back. He stood in silence for a long time, then smiled bitterly. "I really am selfish, Pamir Plateau. South side." A straight knife sliced through the air, instantly cutting across the thigh of a man in black, leaving a gruesome gash. The man in black let out a muffled groan, his body covered in wounds as he struggled to take 2 steps in the snow before weakly collapsing to the ground, blood oozing from various parts of his body and gradually staining the snow red. The Loki clone gritted his teeth, raised his right hand, and several strands of black silk attempted to weave a trick, but it fell apart halfway as the divine power within him had completely dried up, leaving him unable to use trick to escape. Is the clone's divine power already at its limit? The Loki clone snorted coldly and turned to look into the distance. The headlights of an electric vehicle broke through the wind and snow, and 2 figures sat in the car, approaching him slowly like messengers of death. Suiqing, draped in a dark red cloak, got out of the car, reached out and pulled the knife embedded in the snow back into his hand, calmly gazing at the fallen Loki before speaking lightly. "Why aren't you running? The Night Watchman of Daxia, right?" Loki sneered. "Chasing me twice in a row, I've noted this grudge. Don't think you've won. The gift I prepared for you will arrive soon." As his words fell, Loki's entire body twisted violently. A large amount of black liquid surged out from his body, flowing into the snow and coalescing into a shattered black ear. Cold Xian, covered in injuries, had completely lost consciousness, collapsing into the snow, unresponsive. Indeed a clone. Suiqing frowned slightly at this scene. Is he attached to another body? Lu Wei, sitting in the car, glanced at the unconscious Cold Xian. What should we do with this person? Kill him. Wait a moment. Suiqing walked over to Cold Xian, reached out and after feeling around for a moment, let out a soft, "Oh," and pulled out a shiny emblem from his bosom. Night Watchman, Cold Xian. Suiqing examined the emblem carefully, confirming its authenticity and spoke in surprise. Is this a spy that Loki planted within the Night Watchman? Or... Suiqing quickly reached out, checked Cold Xian's breath and after a moment of contemplation spoke again. First take him back for treatment, then control him and see if we can get anything out of him. Okay. On the other side. Injured all over, Si Xiaonan slowly moved forward, the cold wind cutting across her face, reddening her cheeks. She tightly clutched the 2 elixirs in her arms, as if they were more precious than life itself. Not far ahead was the western border of Daxiao, with endless mist rolling outside the Wall of Miracles. As long as she crossed this point, she could completely leave Daxiao and head to Asgard. At that moment, a whisper reached her ears. Si Xiaonan paused, suddenly turning her head toward the direction where the Loki clone had dissipated, anger flashing in her eyes. Before dissipating, the Loki clone had left her a low whisper, roughly telling her that his clone had already vanished, urging her to continue carrying the elixir of immortality to Asgard, and that if she did not see him within 10 days, he could still take Cold Shen's life. Loki only mentioned bringing back the elixir of immortality to save Cold Shen's life, but did not guarantee that he could also reunite with him in Asgard. Now Cold Shen had fallen into the hands of the Night Watchman. The bastard. Si Xiaonan clenched her fists tightly, a fierce killing intent appearing on her flushed face. She touched the elixir labeled Immortal Pill in her arms, her mind gradually calming. She took a step forward, continuing toward the misty border. Just as she was less than 100 meters from the border, a terrifying divine pressure suddenly descended. Exhausted, Si Xiaonan felt her legs weaken, and she was directly forced to kneel in the snow, her knees sinking deep into the accumulation. A beautiful woman draped in a golden-purple patterned divine robe emerged from the void, calmly standing before her. "I told you can't escape." Queen Mother of the West. Si Xiaonan recognized the beautiful woman before her, a wave of despair rising in her heart. The Queen Mother of the West before her was not the illusory figure that had fought the Loki clone, but the true embodiment of the Queen Mother of the West, a powerful deity second only to the Supreme God. Not to mention just Si Xiaonan, even if Loki himself came now, he might not be able to rescue her from the Queen Mother of the West. With a flick of her finger, 2 elixirs floated out of Si Xiaonan's arms and landed in her hands. The Queen Mother of the West paused for a moment on the elixirs labeled Immortal Pill, her beautiful eyes narrowing slightly. Stealing the elixir of immortality from the Yaoqi is a grave crime. The Queen Mother of the West shifted her gaze from the elixirs to Si Xiaonan, who was kneeling before her, and spoke lightly. "Do you plead guilty?" Si Xiaonan stared blankly at the 2 elixirs in the Queen Mother of the West's hands, her eyes filled with struggle. She gritted her teeth as if making a certain resolution and buried her forehead in the snow. Her entire being knelt in the snow. "Night Watchman of Daxia Si Xiaonan, please, Your Majesty, let me go." Hearing the words Night Watchman of Daxia, the Queen Mother of the West's gaze sharpened, her brow slightly furrowing as she looked at Si Xiaonan beneath her. "You stole the elixir of immortality and committed a grave crime. Why should I let you go?" "I stole the elixir because there was someone I had to save, something I had to do." Si Xiaonan took a deep breath, raised her head from the snow, and resolutely met the Queen Mother of the West's gaze. "Though I stole the elixir, I swear to the heavens that my actions will never bring shame to Daxia. Please, Your Majesty, see clearly." As Si Xiaonan's words fell, she once again knocked her head into the snow. The Queen Mother of the West fell silent at this. After a long while she flipped her palm, and the Kunlun mirror appeared in her hand, its surface turning to face the kneeling Si Xiaonan. "I do not believe in oaths, only in what I can see. If your heart is clear, the Kunlun mirror will restore your innocence," the Queen Mother of the West said calmly. The Kunlun mirror can replicate the appearance, magical power, and even thought processes of any existence in the world. Si Xiaonan, being merely immortal, could not escape the reflection of her thoughts in the Kunlun mirror. The Queen Mother of the West gazed at the reflection in the Kunlun mirror, which clearly displayed Si Xiaonan's past, present, and all her future thoughts, including all her schemes and plans. Half a stick of incense later, the Queen Mother of the West put away the Kunlun mirror, and her gaze toward Si Xiaonan gradually softened. "Get up." Si Xiaonan's body trembled, slowly rising from the ground, her eyes filled with hope as she looked at the Queen Mother of the West. The Queen Mother of the West lightly tossed the 2 elixirs into Si Xiaonan's arms. "Go." Hearing those 3 words, Si Xiaonan felt a surge of joy in her heart. She hugged the elixir pot and deeply bowed to the Queen Mother of the West before turning and running toward the mist. "Wait." Upon hearing those 2 words, Si Xiaonan's footsteps abruptly halted. She stiffly turned around to see the Queen Mother of the West slowly walking up behind her, taking the elixir pot containing the immortal pill from her arms. The poison soul-devouring pill you took is somewhat lacking in potency for the divine beings. The Queen Mother of the West extracted the dark green pill from the pot and replaced it with a completely white pill that emitted a faint fragrance. Replacing it with this might yield better results. S117 took the elixir pot that the Queen Mother returned to her, standing there in a daze. After a moment of hesitation, the Queen Mother spoke again. In addition, I will leave you with one more thing. She extended her hand and gently drew a few strokes in S117's palm. What is this? The Queen Mother whispered something and S117's gaze gradually brightened. Thank you, Your Majesty. She respectfully bowed again and then hurriedly ran toward the mist, clutching the 2 elixir pots. Watching S117's figure disappear into the mist, the Queen Mother of the West stood alone for a long time before letting out a long sigh. The immortal pill has entered the mortal realm. It seems this eternal life pill cannot escape the same fate. But if that's the case... She fell silent for a moment, raising her head to glance at the endless void above. Heavenly Sovereign, is this what you desired? Lin Chia was lost in thought, unconsciously moving forward, and before he knew it he had arrived at the entrance of the KE Border Defense Unit. To his surprise, the Border Defense Unit was completely quiet at this moment. From outside he could see that the vast area was empty, with not a single person in sight. By all accounts, this place should have been caught up in the time silhouette as well. Why is it so quiet? Lin Chia did not directly flicker through the tightly closed gate. After all, there were many ordinary soldiers here. Using the forbidden ruins in front of them might raise some unfounded suspicions. He walked straight to the entrance and exchanged a few words with the soldiers guarding outside. Soon Qingyu walked out from within the Border Defense Unit. Chia, you're back? Yeah. Lin Chia looked around. Why is it so quiet here? Oh, I came to take over as soon as the time silhouette began. I ordered them all to stay in their dorms and not go out without permission. Just as expected of you. Lin Chia sighed. How are the new recruits doing? Not bad. I observed them closely and it seems quite a few of them have already opened their minds. Some still look a bit confused, but after witnessing that time silhouette, they seem to have gained some insights. And Qingyu paused before continuing. The new recruits from Gongjal Peak, Pang Pang and Zhuanggu are leading them over. They should be arriving soon. And Qingyu glanced at the time and before he could say anything else, Lin Chia turned to look into the distance and smiled slightly. They're already here. Outside the Border Defense Unit, a chubby man draped in a deep red cloak was leading over 100 new recruits, all limping and looking utterly exhausted. At the very end of the line, Xin Qingzhu stood quietly, smoking a cigarette. These over 100 new recruits had survived 6 days of elimination to reach Gongjal Peak. At this moment they walked unsteadily, covered in mud, resembling a group of beggars, but their eyes shone like finely honed swords, bright and full of determination. Lin Chia scanned the crowd and recognized familiar faces among them. Lu Baoyu, Fang Imo, Ding Chongfeng, Li Zhenzhen. Chia. Bailey Pang Pang spotted Lin Chia and waved at him with a smile. Lin Chia nodded slightly, his gaze sweeping over the new recruits as he asked, "Did anything happen to the new recruits?" "Nope, with me around, what could go wrong?" Bailey Pang Pang patted his chest. Except for the time when the illusion of Yuding Zhenren showed up and focused on Xiao Fangmo and Lu Baoyu, nothing else happened. Yuding Zhenren? Lin Chia pondered for a moment and understood the situation. The white tiger hidden within Fang Imo was indeed one under Yuding Zhenren's command. It was not surprising that he sensed Fang Mo's presence and came to take a look. What happened next? Later, I explained it to him clearly and he left. Lin Chia nodded and was about to turn away when he suddenly remembered something. By the way, Pang Pang, how did you know that was Yuding Zhenren? You shouldn't have seen him before. He said so himself. Bailey Pang Pang replied matter-of-factly. Oh. Just as the two were chatting, Chao Yuan approached. Chia, the new recruits have all gathered. Shouldn't we let them tidy up and prepare to return to the capital? The 7 days of grueling training had ended. Regardless of the outcome, the upcoming oath-taking and distribution of the Night Watchman set needed to take place in the capital. I think before that, Chia, you should hold a meeting with the new recruits first. Xin Qingzhu, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Most of them have already grasped some things from this training, but they need someone to awaken them and guide their thoughts onto the right path. Also, The reason for the elimination system and why they were divided into two different environments needs to be explained clearly. I agree. And Qingyu nodded. The training has just ended, and summarizing it now while the iron is hot will yield the best results. Jie. Chia. And Qingyu's words trailed off as he noticed Lin Chia had become lost in thought. Lin Chia's gaze swept over the bright-eyed new recruits, their faces filled with vitality as if each one was full of hope for the future. Looking at their expressions, Lin Chia's heart trembled slightly. The right path. A hint of confusion flashed through Lin Chia's mind. After a moment of silence, he patted Shen Qingzhu on the shoulder. Zhuanggu, can you go hold the meeting and summarize for me? I'm a bit tired. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Chia turned without waiting for anyone else to say anything and walked straight toward a mountain outside the border defense unit. Everyone present stood frozen in place. They had never seen Lin Chia like this before. Chao Yuan frowned slightly as he watched Lin Chia's departing figure, puzzled. What's wrong with Chia? Jiang Er pondered for a moment. Maybe he really is tired? I don't think so. Qingyu, what do you think? Bailey Pang Pang turned to Qingyu and all eyes fell on this team's strategist. Qingyu thought for a moment and sighed deeply. I don't know either. Seeing that even Qingyu couldn't discern what Lin Chia was thinking, the expressions of the others grew serious. After an unknown amount of time, Shen Qingzhu stepped forward. He glanced in the direction Lin Chia had left and slowly spoke. I'll go take a look. The sunlight pierced through the clouds, casting a layer of pale golden light on the distant snow-white mountain peaks. Lin Chia gazed at the swirling gray-white mist beyond the border, sitting atop the mountain like a statue, his deep red cloak spread over the snow, a splash of red ink in a world of white. A rough hand reached out from behind him holding a pack of cigarettes, one cigarette protruding from the box waiting to be taken. Want one? Shen Qingzhu's voice came from behind Lin Chia. Lin Chia glanced at the cigarette box in front of him, momentarily taken aback. After hesitating for a moment, he absent-mindedly took the entire pack. Seeing the empty palm, Shen Qingzhu froze in place. Smoking too much is bad for your health. Shen Qingzhu sat down beside him, snatched the pack back, pulled out a cigarette and handed it to Lin Chia, stuffing the rest back into his pocket. Here's one for you. Next time you want it, come get it from me. Lin Chia awkwardly imitated Shen Qingzhu, placing the cigarette between his lips. Shen Qingzhu brought his fingers close to the tip of the cigarette, gently creating a spark. The orange-yellow flame ignited the white paper, and wisps of smoke drifted away. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Chia began to cough violently. Shen Qingzhu patted Lin Chia's back like a caring father, wearing an expression that said, I knew it. Lin Chia took a deep breath, pinching the cigarette between his fingers, looking down at the busy border defense unit, a complex expression flashing in his eyes. Zhuge, do you think? I'm a qualified night watchman. If even Captain Lin, who holds 2 Group Sea of Stars medals and 1 Personal Sea of Stars medal, isn't considered a qualified night watchman, then there are hardly any qualified night watchmen in the entire Great Xia. Shen Qingzhu replied without hesitation. I'm not talking about achievements, that's meaningless. Why is achievement meaningless? Shen Qingzhu asked, puzzled. If even your contributions to Great Xia can't be used to judge a night watchman, then what should we use? I mean in terms of ideological awareness. Lin Chia continued. Ideological awareness? It's about being selfless, dedicated, putting others before oneself. Things like that. Shen Qingzhu stared at Lin Chia with a strange expression for a while. What are you talking about? Lin Chia stood there, stunned. We are night watchmen, not saints, and certainly not philosophers. Shen Qingzhu shook his head. These things are indeed important, but for us, fulfilling our duties is the most important. To judge a night watchman, we should look at what he has done, not how brilliant his thoughts are. Why are you suddenly asking this? Lin Chia fell silent for a moment and recounted everything he had seen and heard in the shadows of time. After listening, Shen Qingzhu looked at him with a complex expression. You're overthinking it. He said, being a night watchman doesn't have so many harsh conditions. What we believe in are just the 4 sentences on the back of the emblem. Shen Qingzhu pulled out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, and naturally exhaled a puff of smoke, a nostalgic look appearing in his eyes. The oath of a night watchman is magical. Back when I was in the training camp, I was also a clueless loser, but when I jumped into the cave and swore alone before the endless flames, some things became clear naturally and were deeply etched in my mind. An oath, huh? Lin Jie recalled the scene of himself swearing allegiance to the red flag during his time in the training camp. His oath was very plain, very ordinary, lacking the profound impact that Shen Qingzhu experienced, and he didn't grasp anything from it. Back then he was just a rookie, and the most vivid memory he had was Zhao Kongqing's knife and his 10-year promise. So when he recited the oath, deep down he only wanted to inherit Zhao Kongqing's will and fulfill the promise, without fully committing himself to those 4 sentences. Perhaps that's why, even though he had become a night watchman with achievements, he always felt something was missing inside. If you think you're unworthy to guide the new recruits because of these so-called ideological awareness, then you're definitely overthinking it. Shen Qingzhu patted his shoulder, speaking with certainty. In this team no one is more suited than you, Lin Jie, to guide them. Let's go back, Instructor Lin. Shen Qingzhu slowly stood up, extending his hand to Lin Jie. Your last lesson for the rookies isn't finished yet. The confusion in Lin Jie's eyes dissipated somewhat. He remained silent for a moment, reached out, grasped Shen Qingzhu's hand and stood up. He smiled slightly. Thanks, Shugu. Shen Qingzhu tucked his hand back into his pocket, took a look at him while holding the cigarette, a smile curling at the corners of his mouth as he silently shook his head, turning to walk with Lin Jie toward the border defense unit. Egypt. Outside the Sun City. Endless starlight fell from the sky, enveloping the entire Sun City, which from a distance looked like a giant deep blue sphere, silently suspended in the gray-white mist. Surging divine power and flames flickered within the starlight sphere, and an unprecedented divine kingdom blood battle had reached a boiling point. At that moment, through the hazy mist, a figure draped in a black cloak slowly emerged. Loki raised his head, looking at the completely sealed Sun City in the sky, his narrow eyes squinting, a faint smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. Their target is indeed the Sun City. He stepped forward, moving leisurely toward the edge of the starlight formation, his eyes flickering with a glimmer as he murmured to himself. The Sun City is currently weakened, and it certainly isn't a match for the great Xia gods who have just returned from reincarnation and are at their peak. The defeat of the Egyptian gods is only a matter of time, but this makes the situation a bit too boring. He reached the edge of the starlight formation, his gaze fixed on the battlefield within the starlight, and extended his hand into the void. An ancient dark golden spear appeared in his grasp. The spear was surrounded by swirling golden specks, dancing around it like fireflies. The dark golden tip was engraved with intricate runes, seemingly containing some kind of order power. The moment it was exposed to the air, a mysterious and terrifying aura emanated. This was Asgard's strongest artifact, the personal weapon of Odin, the king of the gods. The eternal spear, Gungnir. Loki held the spear, standing quietly outside the starlight formation, squinting as he gazed at the battlefield inside, seemingly waiting for something. Not enough. Still need to wait a little longer.